Hello, everyone. It's me, War Jones Fire, together with Paranormal MGTOW, and we'd like to talk today about the simple breaking down of what the New World Order really contains, what it is exactly. My my favorite picture of the N.W.O is imagining the giant octopus that is swallowing up the world, and its tentacles are dripping down over the earth, and it's just slowly trying to eat the planet up. That's also one of their icons that they use in some of their symbology. I would like to talk today about Daniel chapter 7, how what he has to say about it, about the four beasts. Um, I'm not sure what Paranormal Mikto has to say about the New World Order and how he sees it as. I have a very clear picture of what it is, and well, we might have different points of view. We don't know yet. So let's just get started and see where everything turns out. But first of all, I want to talk about what the New World Order is. It is one world religion, one world currency, and one world language. It is one world religion, one world government, I should say as well. It is basically this one central hub for the entire planet, where everything is controlled and regulated, such as tax laws and borders, and well, actually, that's pretty much it, what I can think of right now. Paranormal, you want to take it over? What your viewpoints might be on the N.W.O system?
Yeah, sure. For me, it's like a very long and slow process, and there is a book written by George Orwell called 1984, and it talks about there are three divisions in the world, and they're always at war. And then when the wars change, people must believe that they were never at war with one of the divisions; they were always at war with the newest one. It's kind of like ISIS and Al Qaeda and all these other terrorist organizations. When the new one comes out, you've got to think that that's the one we've always been at war with. So that's how I see the New World Order. They're going to break the world into three or four parts, and then after a while, they'll break it all into one. It's going to take at least another 10 years unless something major happens.
Would you agree that the establishment of the New World Order is exactly the same as the old biblical version of the Tower of Babel?
Yes, from what I've read about that, it would be at the final stage. So we're just building up to the final stage now.
Okay. No, but what I meant is that you would agree that what they're trying to pull today was attempted before in the past with the Tower of Babel.
Oh, definitely. Yes, it's been attempted many times all throughout history.
I agree on that also. But I was using the Tower of Babel as the most obvious reference point. Um, yeah, like I always said, folks, history always repeats itself, and it always does. If the devil fails, history starts over, and we live it again until the devil fails again, and it continues to keep repeating itself until the devil finally wins. And this time, he has a nuclear arsenal with his attempts. I mean, some people thought that Joseph Stalin was the Antichrist. People thought that Hitler was the Antichrist. And you know what? They all were. But goodness put a stop to them. Goodness said, we're going to win this. And we won. It's only because goodness rose up and defeated evil that evil retreated. But evil only retreats. It always comes back. It always attempts the same attacks again. And that's what we're seeing now with the attempt and possible World War III around the corner. The thing is, people don't really understand what is the Antichrist and what is the Antichrist system. And I would like to explain what this really is. And it's basically just the system that goes completely against God's wishes and God's rules and God's demands for a peaceful world. And the thing is, every time you bring in something into this world that goes against God, He curses you for it. And pretty soon you're going to find yourself plagued and riddled with curses, and you can't get out of them anymore. And one of the greatest curses on this planet today is the global warming, which we have now cloaked and daggered as global warming. But I would say more that the global warming that we are going through is more a plague and a curse for our own bad behavior, as well as birthing pains for the imminent return of Christ. But back to the New World Order. It is a governmental system that has been created to divide the world, to split them all up at first, to recreate new boundaries, new borders, to cause wars and chaos where the strongest will survive, and then the strongest will all unite into one union called the New World Order. and we've had it in the past, such as the Tower of Babel before God destroyed it. And the funny thing about the Tower of Babel is that God said, if humans were capable of doing this, there's nothing they will never be incapable of. So, in other words, if God didn't destroy the Tower of Babel that day, that the humans would have reached the portal to heaven. And there are many stories about stairways to heaven and portals to heaven. We're not talking about a tower that reaches the outer space. We're talking about a tower that was simply tall enough to reach the portal to heaven. There are many portals to heaven, and there are portals on this world to hell as well. And one of my concerns is that CERN might be one of these portals that is opening up in September. And then when I see television shows such as The Big Bang Theory that are promoting CERN to make you think that it's a normal issue, that it's just something common, and they even laugh about these situations. I've been watching The Big Bang Theory just for simple analyzing of what their master plan is, and I can really tell with that show they're trying to brainwash the masses into believing and trying to make this seem normalized. They're trying to make it all normalized to you, that it's just acceptable, and it's not. CERN is a gigantic danger to the world. We don't know what could happen. And even your smartest brains out there, called Stephen Hawking, says that it will be the ultimate wake up call to all of humanity if CERN goes through with what they're doing. Um, I just had to get that out of the way for a minute. I was trying to make it on my last live stream. I was trying to explain that and it didn't come out properly.
CERN's very, very dangerous, and they're building a second one in Japan. And what they're doing with this CERN in Europe is they're trying to create, like they found the the mass particle. I think it's called the Higgs boson particle. They've found that, and now they're trying to break that up and see what's beneath that. And it's very dangerous. They can cause little mini black holes, which could, you know, it might get out of control. I mean, a black hole is this massive thing in space. It could swallow up whole star systems. So if they try and create a mini one and it gets out, it could really swallow up the whole world very easily. So we're definitely playing with things we don't understand here.
But if we believe in the Bible, we're not going to believe in the universe being swallowed up and the earth being destroyed that way. But we could believe in what's going to come out of this portal according to the Bible, and we could believe in the mark that God puts on his people. There's many things that, well, we don't see. The Bible never really says, okay, this is going to happen on this date and that date, and then it's going to happen over here at this location. But there are certain indications right now in the Bible that really says that CERN could be a possible portal to the Antichrist, to the demon world, and release a bunch of demons on this planet. And that fits the Book of Revelations, and I'm not really sure what to believe anymore, because what we are seeing on this world today is simply everything is man generated right now. It's like mankind has decided that they are bored with life and they want to bring back Christ, so they're trying to promote and push forth biblical prophecies to happen, but they're like trying to speed up the Bible to get to the end. That's what the world is
Yes,
doing right now. But I'm not
yes, that's
sure.
why.
Okay, sorry, you
Sorry,
go ahead.
that's why Pope Ratzinger he resigned, and he led the new Argentinian Pope in, because there's a very Catholic prophecy saying that there is only one more Pope after him.
Yeah.
So that's why he resigned and let the last, what he thinks is the last Pope in there, because to bring in that prophecy.
No, that's very true. But I'm not really. I mean, I heard about the prophecy. It's like 900 years old right now. It is an interesting situation, but I'm still very skeptical for the simple fact that it's all related to man. I need to have more divine intervention. I need more
True.
divine things to happen to believe that we are in the end times. Because right now, all we got is those four blood moons. Let's face it. Other than earthquakes happening and famine is happening, and okay, there's a lot of things happening like animals dying right now and weather patterns changing, which all do indicate the end times coming. But really, all we got right now is the blood moon and those few things. We're still missing a lot of divine intervention, and I'm not seeing it yet, and that's why I still have my doubts. I wanted to show you something here pretty interesting. It's called. It's a woman. Her name is Louis. I don't know how to spell her last name. Or Lois Burgess. I can't really pronounce her name. She sounds like she's French Canadian. I wanted to just show you what she's been doing in the world, and it's quite fascinating because now there's apparently 8 of these statues worldwide. Share screen. 1 second. Share. Okay. Check out this statue right here. You might find this pretty interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see it. It's a big building.
No,
Oh,
this
hang on. We're
this
coming up to the
statue.
statue now, like an octopus or something.
Yeah, she calls this Mammon.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the name of the statue, and now there's eight of them all over the world, and they're supposed to represent Mammon, the god that Jesus warns us about. And people don't even look. These little kids have no clue what they're doing, man.
No, no, they don't. Wow.
But there's supposed to be eight of them all over the world right now that are, yeah, leading our world to a darkness, pretty much. Just trying to, once again, make it seem normal, generalize it all. That's the biggest trick of the devil, folks. Many people don't understand that. And I've been trying to tell you with your TV shows like, oh, what's his name again? Family Guy. They
Yeah.
bring out situations and scenarios that would only take place inside of a psychopathic home, in a psychopathic situation. Like you'll see in that show, everything seems fine, and all of a sudden the dog gets shot from behind and blood splatters everywhere. These are situations that happen in psychopathic situations. They're putting these ideas into your head. Okay, if you were a little 10-year-old child, think back to when you were 10. You didn't know about sex. Maybe you did. Maybe you're a little bit educated in it. Maybe you had a little bit of an idea about it, but you didn't really know. Now you got teachers that are coming in and teaching you exactly what it is to have sex like a homosexual, to have transgender
Yeah.
sex, to have normal sex. They're bringing the ideas to your head. And God tells you very clearly to keep your mind clean and guard your heart. Don't let this stuff come into you. But these people are bringing sick ideas into your world right now. They're planting seeds inside of your body. Imagine, Christianity is a seed. When you first become a Christian, you get the seed planted into you. And what usually really happens is somebody comes up and says, "Okay, I want to learn about God." You give them a basics about it. You say a prayer with them. They walk off. You don't hear from them for a few days. Then they call you up and say, "Man, you changed my life." And that's when the seed is just evolving into a little seedling. Then over time, the seedling grows into a strong, mighty oak, and that oak starts producing fruit. That the fruit is telling other people about God, telling about your own experiences. That fruit keeps dropping off. But what we have today, man, I'm telling you, there's not enough Christians that are standing up and telling the truth anymore. They're all afraid of being caught or persecuted or thrown in jail. And
Yeah, that's for real. And also, the government has taken over. Like they've given churches tax exempt status, and they can take it away if the churches don't follow what the government wants. And it's just very hard to stand up now if you're part of a church.
how could you be a church and then notice that the government is saying you must preach this, or we're going to cut you off all your finances? I would
Mm.
say I'd rather have all my finances cut off than lead 100 sheep astray, or 200 sheep astray, or 1,000, however big my people is that come in every Sunday. I don't understand why the churches are selling out to Mammon.
The ministers are just wanting comfortable lives. Like they want to drive around their new Cadillacs and have their children in private schools, and they basically have become way too worldly now. So I think that people are going to have to start praying in each other's houses, like have non-church kind of prayer meetings from now on.
Yeah, I think that's also pretty true. I think that, well, as long as we have like Skype open, we can use Skype for prayer meetings too.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean in the houses. Like you can be in your house and Skype other Christians, but the church I go to, it's way, way, way too focused on money. They really tell you almost every week to pay your tithes, which they say is 10% of your money. Which tithing came from the Old Testament way before we had like dollars and cents. The original tithes was 10% of your crops or your livestock, and I don't have any, so my tithe should be zero.
They shouldn't ask you for any money whatsoever.
Correct, correct. The tithing was never supposed to be money because in the Old Testament they never had money like we do today. So the tithe just relates to your crops and your beasts and your
Yeah, but
farm, whatever you're
but
farming.
but that entire era is over now. Churches shouldn't have any right to ask anything from the people anymore.
Correct, correct. Yes, totally agreed. I mean, it's not 10% of your money. Any Christian who thinks that tithing is to give 10% of your money is just deluded. It's not nowhere in the Bible.
Well, my old church, I used to go to this beautiful church, man. We had like 100 people, and everybody knew each other's name. We all knew everything about each other. We had barbecues every week. We had potluck every week. We talked 2 hours Bible. Then all the kids would put on a performance, and it was a real genuine family, man. And I miss my church a lot. And I've never been able to reestablish it anywhere. But my point being is, you don't have to have a $10,000 monthly loan, a rental agreement to own a church building where you're only going to use it 4 times a month. I mean, a small shack will do. Anywhere will do if Christians can just get together. So I really don't understand the tax exempt status whatsoever from the church. I would rather lose my church building than lose the people inside the church. So I don't
Yeah,
understand why any minister would steer people down the wrong road just for money. I mean, how can they even preach the Bible knowing what they're doing? Shouldn't they like instantly catch on fire?
well, people just find ways to justify what they're doing. I mean, whatever you're doing in life, you'll find some kind of Bible verse that seems to allow it, or they'll just find ways to justify it.
Oh man, but I couldn't do that. Like even with Dr. Kent Hovind, I love Dr. Kent Hovind a lot, but then when I found out that he had a dinosaur park and all that, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, hit the brakes. This guy's spending too much money on himself. But then I came to realize that all the money that he did have, he just reinvested inside of his own dream to prove
Mm,
that evolution was wrong, and he got a whole park about it. And then I loved this park. It was like, okay, this is a guy who's really using his money for the right thing. But then you take a jerk off like Joel Olstein, who goes off and buys a $2 million house, like 20 bedrooms and sinks made out of gold and all this nonsense. And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell could you ever call yourself a minister? Jesus never needed
yeah.
any money at all. Jesus just walked around every day, and he even supplied people with 5,000 people with food. And now it's like we only care about ourselves. It's like all we do is care about ourselves. And I really miss the world is even looking at codependency as something nasty. And I
Mm,
and the MGTOW group especially. I mean, I'm really disappointed in the MGTOW group. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of perverse, nasty stuff coming out of the MGTOW group. Things as a pickup artist. I mean, you're basically saying you're teaching other men how to pick up on psychopaths for the night. Yay! You slept with a psychopath. Because who are the only ones that want to go out and have promiscuous sex? They're the ones that have no hearts, have no souls, and need constant physical attention and physical touch to have any ecstasy in their life whatsoever. So they're going to be the ones that are roaming the streets at night. Now they're telling young men to go after and chase those women. I'm really disappointed in the MGTOW group. I thought we would achieve a lot more, and it's just turning out to be another dirty perversion that might end up becoming something like feminism. And I hate to say that. I'm almost ashamed to call myself a MGTOWer nowadays, but I only call myself a MGTOWer because I stand for the genuine MGTOW, which is also half disciple. And
right.
then another great story, folks, about the Bible is that Paul even tells us not to get married. He says we shouldn't get married. That it's not good for men. But if you do have that constant urge for sex, then it's better for you to get one woman and tie her down, with a marriage contract, and then use each other for sex and have yourself a good life that way. But even he said you shouldn't get married. Uh,
Well, how it worked in the Old Testament was the man would take a second wife, so the man couldn't commit adultery because he would have his wife, and if he cheated on her, he would take the next woman as another wife. So that's how the men would solve that problem. But
yeah, another
yeah, it doesn't happen
justification.
anymore. Yeah, we don't have multiple marriages anymore, so that's gone now.
But that was just another justification that goes back all the way to the Talmud, for example, with the Jewish priest
Right.
saying if they had sex with a child that's under 3 years old, the virginity would grow back. So therefore, it wasn't pedophilia. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
well,
just another
that's terrible.
justification. Yeah, but that's what
Yeah,
they did, man. It's just justification for another sin. I
yeah, that's true.
mean, the priest
But
actually. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, I mean, having an adult wife is way different than being a pedophile. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting into extremes here. That's terrible
Yeah,
being a
but the Jews still
pedophile.
read this book today.
Yeah, they would do. They would do.
They actually. These are the people that don't want. These are the people that witnessed Christ, had a first-hand account, and continued on with their sin anyways.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. It's kind of something that just can't be solved. Christ will have to come back and solve it all.
Yeah, but that kind of explains the Catholic priest situation, don't it? With the having sex with young boys, if
Yeah,
they believe.
as I said to you earlier, the Orthodox it's separated from the Catholic Church because the Orthodox priest wanted their priest to remain married. If you're an Orthodox priest and you're already married before you take the vows, you can keep on being married, and that's one of the main reasons why they split from the Catholic Church. So, the Catholic priest should be married. If they get married first and then become a priest, they should keep their marriage. It's a great idea.
Well, you know what? I truly believe in anything that encourages family life is Christian based, anyways. And I think as a minister, you have every right to be married, and you should have
Yeah,
children because it
yeah,
promotes that you are a family member and that you care about your family and you put out a good result. You're putting out your own fruits. Like, look, this is my family.
yeah, exactly. I think that celibacy is not something God wants for a whole group of people. Like if one person decides it, then that's fine. But I don't think God expects that of priests to be celibate.
I mean, the West is so freaking retarded right now. They're having like 1.3 children per marriage, while Islam is like at four or five children now. And they're really going to start dominating pretty soon. I mean, this is a genuine attack on humanity right now by telling people not to have a lot of children that were overpopulated. Meanwhile, the enemy is procreating like bunnies.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. They are going to take over Europe. I mean, there's 8 million Muslims in France. It's like an invasion. They are going to take over and become the majority within probably a few decades, probably not that long.
Mm. Last year, the
Um,
most com- last year the most common baby name in England was Muhammad. I mean, that says a lot.
yeah, it does actually. And if people don't understand what the Bible says, like one of the curses is that foreigners will invade our land, and it's a curse somewhere in the Bible talks about foreigners coming in and taking over your land, and that's a curse from God. So if people are just going to sit there and let it happen, then I don't know what to say to them.
The only question any Westerner has to ask himself about a foreigner: would this foreigner do it in return if I was cast out of my own country? Would
No,
they, would they let me in? Would they feed me? Would they clothe me? Would they take care of me? Because that's what we're doing right now for all the foreigners. I mean, I live in Holland right now, right? And the average person living on benefits receives about 10,000 euros a year. But
mm,
one foreigner in Holland receives 36,000 euros a year. They're receiving triple the amount, almost four times the amount of a basic person that lives off a handicap benefit here. And the same thing with the elderly. The elderly make around 9,000 euros a year, but a foreigner here gets 36,000 spent on them a year. It's ridiculous. We are
yeah,
pampering
that's
the
a lot.
foreigners and beating down the own people that live in their own countries.
Yeah, I think that people should think twice about voting and about following some of these laws. Like, if your tax money is going to go to strange things, like there's a good reason in the Bible not to try and maximize the taxes you're paying to the government. You should try and minimize them.
Well, you're living in the that Australian area. I won't say exactly
Yeah.
where. So you must have witnessed on the Australian news that your politicians were sending off refugees and brand new boats. And you,
Oh no, I haven't heard of that, but that's kind of crazy because old clunkers come in, which you can't turn around because they're
no,
just
it's
already
actually very
taking in waters.
it's actually very brilliant, and let me explain why.
Mm.
You see, uh, right now Europe is facing 250,000 refugees coming in from Africa into Spain, and then from Spain to the rest of Europe, and then the United Nations, those filthy demons, splits up the foreigners. Okay, Belgium, you take 20,000. Holland, you take 50,000, and that's how they split up this amount of foreigners. And they split them up all around Europe. But Australia said, we're not taking in any refugees whatsoever because they don't want to join our societies. They don't want to take part in our culture. They want to kill and exterminate us. So you know what we'll do? If they come to our shores, we'll give them a brand new boat and send them back packing. And that's what they did. And nobody in the world could complain saying that Australia is not being fair because when they would show up in rinky dink little shitty rickshaw boats, completely destroyed little crappy boats. Australia put them on brand new boats and shipped them off again. So Australia was completely guilt free. It cost them a couple of million, but it saved them billions in the end.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard that myself, but I know that Australia's got very, very harsh laws about illegal immigration. Like the immigrants are definitely rounded up and sent out of the country to another Pacific country, and they're kept there. Like a lot of these immigrants come with no passport, they chuck their papers overboard, so they're sent to this second country until they can show who they are, show they're not criminals. But the kind of countries they come from, I mean, you can't trust all these letters saying they're not criminals anyway, because you can just pay money and get everything wiped off your records. So, but anyway, Australia does send their immigrants to other places until they can prove who they are and why they need to be a refugee, which is kind of good. But other people can get caught up in it. Like a German woman got in an illegal detention camp because she overstayed her visa, but she so you see, other people can get caught up in it too.
Oh yeah, agreed. It'll hurt the innocent as well.
Yeah, but at least she could prove who she was, so she got released very quickly and was allowed to go home or whatever she wanted to do.
The thing I was talking about is that right now in Europe, people are going, "Oh, those poor refugees! Oh, they're human too! Oh, they need to be rescued! Look at these poor people! They gotta be saved!" And not once does it dawn on them that these people enter your country, they would rather behead you than shake your hand. These are
Yeah,
killers. These are murderers. These are perverts. The reason they are running away is because most of them are murderers. They should be persecuted. They should die in their own land. No disrespect to God and Christianity, but that's the truth of it. Many of them do not deserve to be refuge. They do not deserve to be saved. They deserve whatever comes to them.
yeah, it is an invasion too. I mean, you can't have such high numbers of people coming into your country. It is an invasion, and at one point you have to say no. Like, there is going to come a point where you just have to say no because there's no jobs, no
Exactly.
schools, no water, no electricity for the whole world to come. So why not say no, like, quickly? Why wait until the very last day? You know?
But also, why is it that the richest country in the world right now, Saudi Arabia, is not accepting anybody to come in? They're all shooing them
No,
off to the west.
no, that's right.
Why are they not taking
And
their own people in, folks? Think about that.
mm,
If it's not an
yeah,
invasion, why are they not taking their own people in?
yeah. And you have to be a Muslim to go to many of those Middle Eastern countries too. They won't let you in if you're not their religion.
If you're a Jew,
So,
they'll kill you.
well, yes, I mean, they definitely, if you've got a Jewish stamp in your passport, they'll never even let you in at all. So yeah, I mean, they definitely only want their own
Could you
religions there.
could you imagine showing up in Dubai airport with a Jewish passport? I don't think you get very far, man.
No, no. I mean, I don't know how they handle it all there, but I definitely knew that if I'd been to Israel, I couldn't go anywhere else in the Middle East until the passport expires. You'd have to get a whole new passport to travel there.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're originally going to talk about Daniel, and
Yeah, we were.
so it's Daniel chapter 7, the dreams of the four beasts. So there's so much division. Nobody really knows exactly what the four beasts are and exactly how it's happening in the world. But as time goes by, I think we can see a lot of what Daniel said coming true anyway, or becoming more easy to understand.
You want to talk about the
Um,
statue or
oh, you mean the statue you showed us, and that Mammon statue, or another statue?
no? The statue, this Daniel. Uh, that was funny.
Nebuchadnezzar statue. Yeah,
Yeah, the Nebuchadnezzar statue. I can't believe I said Daniel. That's hilarious.
yeah,
Okay, the
yeah,
statue of Daniel. I'm not sure what part. I mean, Daniel's a really big book, so I'm not sure where we would actually start out. Um, we could
yeah.
tell everybody the basic story that how the king came up and said the king had a dream that scared the crap out of him, and he said to his people, Find me somebody that can interpret my dream for me. And the wisest men showed up in front of the king and said, "We can interpret your dream." And then the king said, you're not. I'm not going to tell you my dream. Then you interpret it for me. I want you to tell me my dream and then interpret it for me. And if you don't, I'm going to kill you." And this scared them all, and then they didn't know what to do. And they knew about a man named Daniel who could really interpret dreams well. So they called upon Daniel. And Daniel was able to tell him his dream in full detail and to minute detail. And he also translated his dream for him. And the dream itself was about a bunch of empires coming that came before him and that came after him. And they were talking about the last empire, and it was mentioned in a statue. They had a statue, and it had the head of I can't remember. I can't really remember exactly. I think there was the head of gold. Then there was the feet of iron and clay. Man, I forgot the rest.
Yeah, yeah, I
Information
know what you
overload.
mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, no,
typical
I know
information
what you mean.
overload.
Unless you've got the page open in front of you, you're not going to remember all of it. But it's from what I remember, it's talking about kingdoms that were to come on the
Yes, the
earth, and there
Persian,
was
the
even
Grecian, the Roman, the
yeah,
Ottomans.
yeah,
And people, when you ask people today, what was World War One about? They'll all call it a useless war, a senseless war. They don't even
mm,
understand the damage of what actually took place because it didn't happen in their own country. It didn't. It wasn't a war of the world. It was a spiritual war. It was a war of religions. And like I said in the in the American anthem, you have from the shores of Tripoli. That's in the song, and that's basically where America attacked last to get off the jizya. And if you don't know what jizya is, it's a tax that the country pays every time for protection. It's basically like a mafia thing. You pay money to keep yourself protected. America got sick of paying this tax to Islam, and they went after the Ottomans and destroyed the Ottomans in World War One, which was so great of an event that it should have made everybody drop to the knees and praise God, but it kind of went completely unnoticed, yet it was a gigantic biblical prophecy fulfilled. And everybody today keeps hearing that the Antichrist, the Antichrist will have a deadly head wound. He'll have a deadly head wound. You don't understand that World War One was the deadly head wound because the Antichrist system was the Ottoman Empire, and it is now rebuilding itself underneath the term ISIS or IS or IL, whatever they want to call themselves today. And what you are seeing is that they are reestablishing Babylon. They are taking over Iraq, Syria, and they're trying to recreate Babylon. And they might succeed, but this is the last empire that's supposed to rise before Jesus returns. The Antichrist will receive a deadly head wound. That was World War One. That was the Ottomans, and now they come back as the Neo-Ottoman Empire. So we had the Persian, the Grecians, the Romans, blah blah blah. I forgot the rest of them right now. Total information overload. Point being simply is that the Ottomans now have risen. They are part of the last army on Earth, one of the last ruler empires on Earth. Then you also have the Pope right now declaring that he might be the last Pope. There's many indications right now that are actually saying that this could be the very end of existence. But then there's also the element that everything that is happening is only human happening. There is no divine happening other than earthquakes, famine, and animals dying, which is a gigantic clue and a very big hint, and that the weather is changing. But still, I'm missing a lot of divine moments. I'm missing the two witnesses dying and then being seen all over the internet for 3 days, and that they rose and they come back to life again. I'm missing the Antichrist getting the Ark of the Covenant out from the Sea of Galilee. I'm missing the Sea of Galilee completely drying up. Although it is drying up right now, it still looks like it has at least 100 years left to go. Biblical times with biblical prophecy is not adding up right now. There are events that are lined up and they have come true, but the timeline is completely off. And I don't know why this is off. And everybody right now is in a complete panic in a state that, ooh, the end times are here. You go to YouTube, you type in end times, you'll get a million videos. Everybody is so focused on it. Even America is so focused on it right now. And America believes in the pre-trib rapture. So that means that America's not even going to put up a fight. They all think that God is just going to rapture them out. So that's why right now they're completely dormant. They're waiting to be raptured out. They're not going to put up a fight. And we are seeing America right now becoming Muslim. We are seeing Islamization right now of the United States. We see a Muslim president. And if they vote in this psychotic bitch, Hillary Clinton, you will definitely have a Muslim president because she just converted to fucking Islam 3 years ago. Oh, that felt so good to get out. Uh,
Yeah, no, that's cool. It might help for listeners if I just talk a little bit more about the Book of Daniel, just to refresh everyone's memory. So I'm looking um, at the statue now, and it said that the head was made of gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. That's Daniel chapter 2, 32 to 33. And then it said, then a rock cut not by human hands will hit the foot of the statue, and the whole image will become like chaff on a threshing floor. So the rock not cut of human hands will be from God destroying all the kingdoms. And if we just go a little bit further into the book of Daniel, he identifies the first four of those kingdoms, and it said that the head made of gold was Babylon, that was Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, and then Babylon fell to Medes and the Persians, that's Daniel chapter 5, verse 26 to 31. And then the next of those was Greece, became the successor to the Medo-Persian Empire, Daniel chapter 8, verse 20. And then finally the iron was that of Rome. And after that we can have a look and see what happened after Rome. And we've got a few more kingdoms came after Rome, like the British Empire and like what we have now with the United Nations. So maybe they tie into that statue somehow exactly. It doesn't exactly say in the book of Daniel because it was written way before our time. So I kind of see that myself. I do think those kingdoms listed in Daniel have come to pass, and now we look to be at the feet, at the very last kingdom made of clay and iron.
yes, and if you look at this picture I'm displaying right now, it clearly says Kingdom of Restored Rome. Uh, I don't understand why the entire countries in the world always want to establish themselves in the Bible prophecy. Why can they not just leave Bible prophecy alone? You know, everybody believes that it's going to come from the European Union. They're not even seeing that it's coming from Turkey. So right here it says legs of iron and a kingdom of ancient Rome. That's not really true. It's part of the Babylon, the Ottoman Empire, and the feet of iron and clay is going to be the Ottoman Empire, not the restored Rome. That's completely psychotic. That's a deliberate deception from the devil to make us believe that it's going to be Rome that strikes. It's going to be the Ottomans. And right now, Obama has been sending military airplanes, brand new jets, to Turkey. Obama has been completely supplying ISIS, but also Turkey with all the weapons in the world. Uh, ISIS doesn't even have an air support. We could easily take them out in a day or two, but we haven't done it. And we keep saying that they are too strong. They don't even have air support. So if America just sent over a bunch of airplanes, they could take care of it all. But they don't want to do that. They're deliberately creating the Ottoman Empire again, the Neo-Ottomans. They are funding the Neo-Ottomans. They are supplying the military, and they are creating false delusions about how powerful ISIS truly is so that ISIS can build up itself an empire. They are literally trying to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. So the feet of iron and clay is definitely the Ottoman Empire, not the new Roman Empire, folks. Please stop trying to add yourselves into biblical prophecy. That it confuses people and turns people away from religion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like America could have won the Vietnam War like in a month if they tried hard enough, and they could have finished what's been happening since 9/11 in a very short time too if they really wanted to. So
Yep.
they are just dragging things out and picking winners and losers and picking what the shape of the Middle East they want it to be. So it's very clear that they're trying to build up Turkey again somehow.
They said that Saddam Hussein himself said that America put him as in president, that he was an
Oh,
American puppet. They killed
mm,
Saddam Hussein and created division amongst the land, divided up the land, and have caused create chaos there. It's called deliberately destabilizing a nation. And now nobody's really in control. It's complete wildness. But when Saddam was there, he had everything in control. It was only when Saddam finally said, okay, let's turn the oil money from the petrodollar into the euro that America attacked them. The truth is, Saddam Hussein, no matter how bad we all believe that he was, controlled his nation pretty well. He kept everything in track pretty well. And he was not a very nice man. I agree on that. I don't agree on everything that he did, but he sure kept everything in line. And since Saddam has been killed, look what's happened to Iraq. So let's get it right, folks. Iraq has gone completely rogue now. It's been separated and divided up in multiple parts, just like Israel and Palestine. Palestine is an abomination, by the way. It is completely Israel, and Palestinians need to leave and stop pretending like they inherited that land when they know that they are fucking Arabs. They have nothing to do with Israel, and they need to leave. As a matter of fact, Abraham marked out the whole territory, and that territory that they're on right now belongs to the Jews. It belongs to Israel. Very simple. The whole Palestinian creation right now is another satanic, deliberate attempt to make you feel sympathy for the devil. As I told you before, the devil loves to scream. He loves to cry. He loves to hoot and holler. He loves to seek attention. He is a narcissist. If you know what a narcissist does, then you'll know what he is doing. He is using nations upon nations in his plan. This is the ultimate narcissist. This is the one that can actually control people and turn them into narcs as well. He is the creator of all narcs. If you hate narcs, you should hate the devil because he is the ultimate narc. Every narc that actually exists today comes from him. They have every spirit of him, inside of them, I should say. Point being, the devil rules this planet right now, and he can easily put nation against nation, border against border. He is the one that created the United Nations, and he is the one that deliberately split up Israel and Palestine the way that he did to cause conflict. Think about it. The United Nations gets the order to create a brand new border between Palestine and Israel to make peace, to make sure that nobody's going to kill each other. Then the devil comes by and puts the border right between a Palestinian's backyard and a Jewish backyard that deliberately creates chaos. The borders right now, the way that they are established, is what's causing most of the trembling of the nations that you hear in the Bible, the trembling cup. It's because of the way that the borders are established. Who established the borders? The United Nations. What does the United Nations stand for? One world order. So try to understand. The biggest tool the devil has on this planet today is the United Nations. That is his biggest weapon. And whoever runs the United Nations and runs the global economy at the same time, look out, because that's the biggest chance that they're going to have. That is the Antichrist, because the Antichrist will rule from the most powerful nations. Well, if you run the UN, then you pretty much control all the powerful nations. So I believe he's going to rise from Turkey, then take over the United Nations. And we will see. Time will tell. But also, how do you make a peace treaty between two countries unless you're working for the United Nations? Huh? You think that you think a president from Turkey can send a letter to the president of Israel and say, okay, well, I want 7 years peace treaty with you? No. It has to be all done officially. So you're going to have to go through the United Nations to get this done, since they are the ones that establish borders in this world today. And why did we ever give them power to establish borders for in the first place? It has caused tremendous war, so much death. And what for? Because they are too lazy to go out and deliberately make the borders safe for everybody? Look at Jerusalem today. It has a gigantic wall going right through it to keep the Palestinians out. That's all because of the United Nations. And let's not forget how
the United Nations is in control. If they didn't want something, they would find a way to send an army to change it how they wanted it. So they're definitely in control.
That's exactly right. And if they don't change it, it means they want it that way on purpose. Because they have all the power in the world, folks, to change anything they want to change. They can do anything in this world, and we all have to take it up the butt. I mean, that's what the Palestinians and the Jews are doing right now. They're taking it up the butt because the United Nations decided to draw a really funky border. And Winston Churchill's responsible for that too, and that's why I don't like Churchill. But Churchill did have a pretty couple of pretty good quotes during his lifetime, and he was right about the Nazis compared to everybody else, and everybody called him a Nazi phobe, and he was completely right. And now everybody's calling us Islamophobes, and they're all going to find out that we were absolutely right. As I've stated before in many videos, the masses have always been wrong. Since the dawn of time, the masses have always been wrong. Look at Noah making a boat in the middle of the desert. Everybody mocking him and laughing at him. Wow, here's the fool building a boat in the middle of a desert. Look at this fucking fool. What a fool. And come the day of the flood, everybody died and Noah was survived. Ever since the beginning of time, the masses have been completely wrong. We used to believe that the world was flat. The masses used to believe that the world was flat. It took Christopher Columbus reading the Bible and understanding Genesis to go out and figure out, hey, the world is not flat. That was only 500 years ago. Okay? So think about how much we've so called evolved in your evolution, if you want to. But truth is, we don't know shit. We don't know anything about this world. And we're lucky enough to have the Bible that gives us a glimpse and tells us what happens. And Paranormal MGTOW and myself and every other Christian out there is a future teller. We can tell you what's going to happen in the future. It is set in stone to happen. You are not in this world alone. You are definitely inside of a script. You are inside of a play. You are a puppet inside of a play. That's why your life is. That's why all the hairs on your head are numbered. That's why your life has been set the way that it has been set, because you play a part in the play. But you are definitely living in a scripted play. And to prove that, in 1870, over 150 years ago almost, Albert Pike wrote a letter about the World War One, World War Two, and World War Three scenarios and how they would have to pan out and play out for worldwide globalization takeover. And he predicted 30 years before World War One happened that World War One was going to happen and how it happened. It played out exactly how he wrote it down to happen. And Albert Pike today, who was a Confederate, and you know how you Americans are so upset today with your Confederate flag, that man who created World War One and World War Two is being worshipped today inside the Mason Lodge inside of Washington, D.C., and he is the only Confederate buried today in Washington, D.C. So if you don't like the Confederate flag, then you should demand that the Masons remove his body, because you want to go around today pulling up ex-generals such as Mr. Forrest that you all pulled up last week. How about you go out and get Albert Pike out of the Mason building there? And maybe Washington, D.C. would be a little bit less cursed.
Wow, that's very interesting information. I just want to get back to Israel. There's something I think I should say. There's called The Prophecy of Jubilees by Rabbi Judah ben Samuel. And he was a rabbi who lived in like the 1200s. He died in the year 1217. And he said in his article that the Turks, the Ottomans, would take control of Israel. He was talking in Jewish years, but translated to our years, he said they'd have it at 1517, and they did. And they kept it for 400 years until 1917, near the end of World War One. That's when British General Edmund Allenby walked into Jerusalem on Hanukkah
Let me hold
without
you.
firing a shot.
Let me hold you right there. This is important.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
said that they took it over and it stopped in the 1900s during World
It
War
did.
One.
It did.
Did,
They had it from 1517 to 1917, 400 years.
and didn't I just say that World War One was a silent war that nobody knows what actually happened? And yet
Yes,
it was a complete overthrow of the Ottomans. The Ottomans were
yes,
Turks, and they took over Jerusalem. And you wonder why that stopped? Is because of World War One, because of
mm,
America dominating the Ottomans and putting the final blow into their head. But continue. I just wanted to add that piece in there, that people understand why the Turks lost it in the first place. That they had Jerusalem for 400 years and they lost it. Now it's multicultural there.
that's right. No, that's exactly right what you said about World War One. In any case, Israel was partially given to the Jews in 1948, and they got the rest of it in 1967. So remember, 1917 to 67, that's another 50 years, and that was in the rabbi's prophecy. That's when Israel was fully united as the country it is today, by and large. So this prophecy is important. It does tend to play out, not in exact ways that we would think, but if you look at dates and if you have a little bit of biblical understanding, you can see that prophecy does play out. So it's going to be very interesting because the next 50 years is the year 2017, i.e., 2 years from now. So we should all be watching Israel then and see what happens then. It could be very, very big.
But this year is the year of Jubilee. Oh,
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
September.
that's a separate prophecy. That's a separate about the Jubilees. This is the prophecy about from Rabbi Judah ben Samuel about Israel. But yeah, the Jubilee is this year. This year's the 50th year, but it's not. It doesn't quite sink in with what I just said about Israel.
No, but I understood what you're saying. But also,
Yeah.
recently there was another high rabbi that passed on in Israel, and he made a prediction about the last president that when he
Mm.
died, that Jesus would return shortly after he died, which is quite scary for a rabbi to say because he actually acknowledged Jesus. But it would also fit into that generation shall not pass before they see Jesus.
Yeah, well, shortly after it could be a decade. It could be, it doesn't have to be straight away. So we'll just see how long it does take, really.
Well, I don't know how many. Well, let's see. 1947,
Hmm.
50 years, it'd be 1997, and then another 15 years on top of that, 18 years. What are we looking at? Like 68 years now, roughly?
Oh, I see. You're talking about the generation won't pass before Jesus comes back after Israel's established. Yeah, just from 1948, and a generation could be 120 years, and that'll be 2068. That's the maximum a generation is, 120 years. I've studied this and found that out.
Well, then a quick summoning up 67 years ago, we now have a rabbi that predicted that after the last president died, that it would be very soon. Jesus returned. We have the biblical prophecy that Jesus will return shortly after the nation is reestablished. We have now that this might be the last pope. We have worldwide earthquakes going on right now of great magnitude of 7.9 recently in Nepal. We have animals dying out on the shorelines. We have birds falling out of the sky. We have water right now actually turning to blood worldwide. We have very weird storms going on right now. And we have blood moons that are taking place, and a lot of biblical things are happening, such as the introduction to global marriage inside of the continent of America with the homosexuality.
Yeah, and most of all, we've just got a world of asleep, dead, sort of spiritually dead people with their heads stuck in the sand. As Jesus said, will there be faith when I return? So we've just got a world full of very, very sleeping, lukewarm kind of people who don't have much faith by the look of things that I can see anyway.
And a great persecution of Christians right now.
Yes, and it's going to be in their countries too, because there's lots of prophecies that there's gonna be terrible times in Europe, and I'm pretty sure that Muslim people aren't going to tolerate having their countries invaded and their people killed forever. Like one day they'll start, bringing it home. I think.
Did I tell you about that story about the women right now that are stuck in Iraq from Britain? Ugh.
No, no, I don't remember that. No, what about them?
It's sickening. You have British people right now. There's like 37 men and 15 women stuck in Iraq right now, wanting to return to Britain, and Britain has classified them all as terrorists, which they are. They're jihadists. But the men, the 37 men, they went over there and they wanted to fight the Great Fight, thinking that it was the Armageddon War, the now and here and take place in the war. And it turns out that most of the fighting going on right now in Syria and Iraq is gang related. It's Muslim versus Muslim and territory disputes. It's not the great Muslims versus Christians war and Jews war that they hoped for. So now they are returning, and there's like 17 women sitting in Iraq right now, pregnant with Muslim children, and they're wanting to come back to Britain as well. And I heard this about Holland and about France, that all these people that went off for jihad are all wanting to return right now because they have been tricked.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, the only reason for women are alive is because the men went out and fought. Because women don't often fight wars. It's mainly the men who fight for wars. But the women went there with the men. They seem to support the men, and now that they're lost and they're stranded with no money, they want to come back. It seems like the days of Rome, when Rome would invade a city and they'd say, "Okay, well, let the woman go. The woman can go," and the woman left the city, and then the men would be stuck there to fight. So it's just for women just not being honest. Like they're just trying to come back and say it wasn't me who was fighting. No, it's because the men fought and you just sat at home and didn't fight. So no, I really wouldn't want people like that returned. I hope they don't get back, but I'm sure they will somehow.
I believe that ISIS might just possibly be the 200 million man army just because of the fact that they called for global jihad and actually received it, and yet have not been brought to justice for war crimes for calling on global jihad. Could you imagine right now if the Pope called out for global crusades? What would
Mm.
happen? Yet these people have been able to go onto YouTube and make bombs and show us videos about how to make bombs, and it's all allowed. They can recruit, they can kill, they can show their videos on YouTube, and they can kill. It's like they're being allowed to do everything in the world right now. Nobody's trying to stop them, and it makes me wonder why nobody is trying to stop them.
Yeah, it's all part of a plan, really, which is going to fit together, and we'll see exactly what the mission is one day soon, I guess. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see
Well,
what happens with these women and if it is the 200 million man army.
well, like Holland right now too is trying to cry out for Sharia law, and people here
Right.
they're totally happy with it, and even the women are. It's like, what the fuck? Don't you understand what it even means? They don't understand. They have no clue. They've never been subjugated or oppressed or beaten down. They've had luxury, rich, entitled lives.
I know. They're the most privileged people who've ever lived, a modern woman, because they've got all these appliances, they've got electricity, housework, just as a breeze now compared to even 100 years ago. They've got laws to make companies hire them, give them jobs, give them time off when they're pregnant. So there's never been such a privileged people as modern Western women.
Modern Western man, also though,
Well, not so
compared,
much for the men, because the men are still called
compared to the Middle
called to
East man.
fight in wars. Yeah, yeah.
No, but we're also spoiled with our television and our entertainment and everything that keeps us occupied and it keeps us out of shape and not ready for war. I mean, men are supposed to be warriors, right? We've all been living up the good life, eating our donuts and drinking our Starbucks and all shit like that. That we're not actually in warrior mode anymore either.
Yeah, well, of course, modern men have privileges too. But I was talking about women, and compared to even 100 years ago, the lives are just miraculous now. It's amazing. The modern woman, they've got birth control, got abortion. Men don't have all that. So, yeah, I mean, I was just talking about for women. I mean, you could bring in like children too. So, I mean,
Well, yeah.
it'll never end how privileged people are.
I wonder what kind of hell that man is living in, the one that made birth control and screwed over all other men. I wonder what
Yeah,
kind of hell he's living in right now.
yeah. I mean, I'd hate to think. I'd hate to think. But anyway, I'm going to have to depart soon. I've got things to do today, and I think we've
Yeah.
covered a lot of important ground. So it'll be best to have another hangout later and see if there's any comments or any
Mm.
questions about today. I haven't seen any questions. I'll go quickly back to the YouTube page before I leave. No, there's been no questions or comments. So we'll give people a chance to listen and talk next time and see what people have to say.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, man. And oh yeah, sorry, I got a little bit hung up with somebody's comment here. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. We should keep these little videos short. That everybody, it's like a Bible for dummies.
Yeah, because people won't have the time to listen in, like they might be asleep or something. So next time we can see what people have talked about. So
Yeah, good idea. So we'll
thank you for
call
your
it for now,
yep.
and we'll talk again soon and later.
Okay, then
You have
bye.
a great day for now. I'm going to get some sleep as well. It's midnight here.
Right. Okay,
So
bye.
take care of yourself. Bye. Oh, he's gone already. Okay.